Welcome back. So we're reviewing the age of decay, how aging and a shrinking population could usher in the decline of civilization. Our guest is Shamil Ismail. Again, let's just look at Eva in the retirement age, where a lot of people say at age 60 are still well able to work, and yet policy prescribes that you have to retire. How does that impact on the population?
So the economists like to put this forward that the problem will be solved if we raise the retirement age. Now, there's a lot of nuances in that. Yes, it will help in some cases, but primarily it will help in sort of desk-bound jobs and admin and those type of jobs. But there's a whole host of jobs that can't be appropriate to sort of stretch out the retirement age. Think about a truck driver. I mean, like, you wouldn't want a 75-year-old truck driver getting a heart attack on the freeway and putting other people's lives at risk. In fact, in the US, the FAA, the Federal Aviation Authority, mandates that air traffic controllers must retire at the age of 56. And they cite a whole host of medical sort of evidence of things deteriorating, eyesight, hearing, etc., perceptiveness. So you can't have that risk. Also, some of the basic jobs need heavy lifting. You need to be young and strong to do that. And so this lifting of the retirement age, it may suit some admin jobs and some high-skilled jobs, but the essential work primarily will be out of reach of it.
Yeah. And what's the gap, maybe just globally, if you can do a benchmark in terms of, say, the older population versus the younger people?
Yeah, so that ratio, what they call the dependency ratio, has been dropping significantly. Or the way that I look at it, the inverse of it. So the number of workers per retired person used to be the order of 6 to 1, 6 workers for 1 retired person. It's now 3 in some developed countries, and it could approach 2. So like in Japan, for example, it's approaching 2 workers for every retired person. So that, what makes it worse in the case of Japan and other developed countries is that the workers have also a very high level of tertiary education. Yeah. So they are highly skilled, and they're not going to do the basic jobs. So it therefore reinforces the need for immigration. Yeah,
and how our quality of life could be impacted. I mean, if you do not have your municipal workers, for example, who come in and collect the trash, etc.
Exactly. Yeah. So that's what happened in Paris in March this year. So they had a 8-week strike by the garbage collectors. And during those 8 weeks, I mean, the garbage was piled up in streets and the rats were running around. It's just unpleasant. But that's the type of things that could happen when you've got a breakdown in those services.
All right, the economic impact of the scenarios that you have created, and obviously evidence-based research as well, what does it look like?
Yes, so it's quite diverse. At the macro level, firstly, you're going to have a reduced demand. Now, remember, demand is consumption is basically 60% of GDP for most countries. So if you have a smaller population, the smaller population has a lower demand than before, and therefore your consumption drops, and therefore your GDP will lower. At the same time, your labor costs will increase because you've got fewer workers. There'll be more competition for them, not just locally, but internationally. So the wage cost shoots up through the roof. And then tied to that is that you've got a greater proportion of the population that's on pensions, and pensions are fixed, with increasing only by like a small low inflation amount every year. And when you have this high inflation, wage inflation, you could actually have declining living standards for the older people.
Yeah. So you're saying a growing population is a good indicator of economic growth because, the more people work or they're educated, they're able to procure stuff, cars, buy property, etc.
Yeah. And you want not just a bigger population, but you want a larger, younger population, because younger people consume more than older people. Older people they directly spend at healthcare and sort of things like that. Younger people accumulate things. They're consumers. They buy things and toasters and TVs and the like, and cars.
Okay. Has it already impacted, like in the investment market, for example, all the research that you've done, is it evident that there's been a dent in it? And what kind of investments are being impacted?
So we just ahead of the curve now. It's not happening, and there's still opportunities for companies to diversify from that. So you can go into other areas, you can go into high growth areas, etc. But if you take something like tobacco companies, that's an ex-growth sector where basically people are shifting away from tobacco consumption, moving to other things, or dropping it completely. But in time to come, that opportunity to diversify for companies to find other things to pursue will actually also dry up, and then we're really going to see it. And as I said, that's probably around about from 2040.
Yeah, but I think the compelling argument you're saying is that we are deliberately reducing the population rate and not necessarily the replacement rate as the human race. Are we looking at extinction or? No,
yeah. So mathematically it is possible. In fact, there's a calculation that's been done on South Korea that by the year 2350, the last South Korean would be born. I don't think it will go that far. I think what will happen is that we're going to go through this time. As these sort of trends unfold, we will start having a more difficult life. Things won't be working, things won't be fixed quickly, etc. And then parents will struggle, and the children will see, look, my parents are struggling, even though they had a good pension, etc. And then maybe I should have not just one kid, maybe I'll have 2 or 3 kids. And in effect, what will happen is that we'll be going back to the pre-industrial age. We had larger families, and you see children as an asset again instead of an expense.
Yeah, but the children are also seen as a sign of wealth, I think, in some cultures especially.
It could return to that.
Yeah. All right, we're going to have to leave it there. Shamil, thank you so much. Really, really appreciate it.
Thank you.
That is Shamil Ismail, the author of The Age of Decay, How Aging and Shrinking Populations Could Usher in the Decline of Civilization. Thanks for joining us.